Daniel.
Hi there.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for decoding my dream for me.
Absolutely.
So, I'm going to read it from here. I enter a house, and immediately I am in a living room or family room.
Mhm.
Just to the left was a dining area and a swinging door that led to a kitchen. I knew that a Black family with their kids lived there. The house seemed busy with toys and not a lot of like adult styling, but it felt light and happy. The mom was a young, slender woman of color, and she was calm and cooking in the kitchen. I began like walking around the house, like looking at the pictures on the wall. And when I turned back around to head back towards the kitchen, there was there was a toddler standing in front of me with his arms lifted up for me to pick him up. So I picked him up and I noticed that his diaper was full. So I walked into the kitchen and I told his mom. In that moment, she was getting ready to serve two medium platters, which were in her hands already. I followed her out of the kitchen, still holding the baby, and noticed the food was beautifully presented, like small pancakes with intricate powdered sugar details on the tops. She sat the platters down and walked around to the family room and kneeled down. She was preparing to change the baby's diaper. I just knew that in the dream. I followed her, still holding the toddler. And as I bent down to lay him down, he fell out of my arms. His right arm was pinned under him. I kneeled down, and at this point, I was like crying and apologizing. The mom, she didn't budge. She didn't jump for him, or she was very calm and felt like a very kind demeanor. I kneeled down and began straightening his arm. I began crying and apologizing again when I noticed that his arm was actually dislocated. And then I had a thought, I will fix this. At that point, the mom just nodded, and I took his elbow in his little hand and I popped his arm back into place. The baby wasn't crying at all, but when the arm was fixed, he gained awareness and seemed very alert and alive. Then we started laughing, the mom and I had another thought. Oh, you popped the arm back in place. Now you think you're a doctor now? And that was the end of my dream.
Wow. Interesting. Are you married?
I am not, no.
Okay. So to me, when you said entering a home, to me it sounded like the idea of a new relationship being brought into somebody's house, somebody's family. And it sounded like you didn't really know who the family was, like they were a new family to you.
Right.
So the first place you entered in was the living room and the family room. So that's kind of
Mhm.
also, somebody that you're in their living space invites you, into the family, whatever the idea of a relationship. The dream isn't really necessarily about the relationship. It's about what happens in the context of being invited into that family area. Things are going on in the kitchen, which is a place of preparation, which may mean that there's work to be done yet before you sit down and have a meal. The So you mentioned the family room, the living room, the kitchen, and then you said something about like a door and like a swing outside.
So the door to the kitchen was a swinging
Oh, a
door. So
swinging door. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't like an open kitchen at all. It was like you went
Okay.
through the door and then you were in the kitchen.
Right. And where was the toddler when you found him?
He was like in the dining area.
Dining area. Okay,
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you pick up the toddler. He's got a dirty diaper. You go and you find his mother. His mother has a double portion. So literally two portions, two plates in her hand. She's getting ready to serve. Presumably, it's the idea, even though the dream doesn't specifically say that you're coming over for dinner and you're going to be one of the people that's served. But
Wow.
obviously, there's this mess that needs to be dealt with. And so you're bringing that to the attention of the mom. Now, does she go and put the plates down on the dining room table and then attend to the, okay.
Yes.
Right. So the idea of the toddler represents something that's relatively new, perhaps a year or two old. And it's something that, and this is what it represents in this case. It's not always going to represent this, but it represents an offense. You know, you don't think of babies as being bad, but you think of the stench of a poopy diaper of, man, this is, whew. You know, you don't want to sit down to eat with that in the hot, you know, you got to go deal with that. Yeah. And so what happened is you were carrying the baby. In other words, you were carrying the burden of what needed to be dealt with in this family, because immediately upon entering, it was brought to your attention, which is the discerning side of you. We're just like, there's something amiss here. And so you take it on, well, hey, I'm going to help out and take this to his mom. But then you drop it, which means that I believe the dream is warning you. It's not a dire warning, but it's just the idea of be very, very careful coming into a new situation when you sense and see that there's some sort of mess in the family, how you handle that mess. Because obviously if somebody walked into your house and dropped your kid on the floor, you know, most people wouldn't just be calm and collected like this mom was. Thankfully, there was a lot of grace, but, you know, you pop the kid's arm out. The arm represents the idea of, like, you know, the right hand of fellowship, but it also represents the strength of protection, the strength of offense and war, whether right or left hand, right? So it's the idea of arms are used to embrace. They're also used to go to war. So an arm that's out of place is something that needs to be fixed immediately. So it's interesting that you wanted to bring help to the situation. And so you picked up and brought this to the attention of his mother, but in the process, you mishandled it and kind of dropped it. And that caused an injury that, again, the mom didn't freak out at. You were able to fix the injury, and it seemed like the situation was now represented by the baby was now more acute, more aware, stronger, better than it was before. And so I think it's just the idea that God may bring you into a situation, and it may be into a family. It may come through a dating relationship or something like that, where you're coming to a home where you're completely invited in, family room, dining room, kitchen, living room. You know, you're picking up the kids. You know, it's not like, you know, you meet, you know, it's not like you walk into your neighbor's house and meet them for the first time and you have that. There's a level of being invited in for you to have that kind of familiarity with the family to be able to handle their children and, you know, do all these things. So that's why I think, again, it's a family situation that you're being invited into. And God is just saying, be careful how you handle what I show you that's amiss or offensive or needs to be handled. Because you may immediately see a family dynamic and think, oh, well, why don't these two just talk? And why don't I facilitate a conversation? And not knowing the history, you could mishandle it. And mishandling could cause, you know, for you were shocked and appalled at the fact that you dropped the baby, and oh my gosh, and you were apologizing and in tears, and you know, it actually caused you more consternation apparently than it did the mom. The mom was just like, yeah, we've been dealing with this for a while. But it ended better. So I want you to know that you do have a grace on your life for healing and bringing situations that have been misaligned or are particularly offensive in the area of family, bringing them first to attention, and then secondly, doing what needs to be done to correct and to realign them. And so part of it is an identity and destiny dream. Part of it is a prophetic warning. And again, the warning is not don't drop the baby. The warning is if you get into a situation where you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I brought this up and now these two are fighting right here in front of me. I wish I just would have kept my mouth shut. Know that happened because God gave you the dream, and now you have the ability to fix what the problem is. You know, so it's not, you know, and again, this is what takes discernment. People would be like, well, don't drop the baby. Well, it turned out okay after you dropped the baby, and the mom didn't freak out. So the only one freaking out was you. So don't be alarmed if you go in and you bring a situation to the attention, the whole thing blows up and it gets dramatically worse, because God's given you the ability to come in and heal And then even that quip at the end, oh, just because you did this once, you think that you're a doctor now. And it's like, well, I have a doctor that lives inside me. So there you go.
Hallelujah. I have 2 points that I wanted to bring up. The first one is I did try to do my own research. I promised the Lord that I would be um, more proactive about the dreams. I dream a lot. And so I looked up the pancakes because I thought that that was quite interesting. And it brought me to Shrove Tuesday, which I believe is a way heading into like Lent season. And what they do is they use those rich foods like eggs, milk, and sugar before fasting. And Shrove Tuesday 2021, because that's when I had the dream, is February 16th. I had the dream February 12th. And so I was thinking to myself, do the pancakes represent like there are some things that I need to use up before I head into this season of like a lifestyle of fasting for the Lord or something along those lines. And so I just wanted to ask your opinion if you knew anything about Shrove Tuesday or those pancakes in particular. I know you mentioned a double portion, but it just stood out to me so much, you know.
I love that. I love that. Shrove Tuesday and February 12th. What's 2 days before Shrove Tuesday and 2 days after February 12th?
So
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
February
Wow.
14th. So it's the idea of the 2 plates, the double portion, the 2 and the 2, right between the 12th and the 16th is Valentine's Day. So I do think this dream is warning, is not warning, but kind of foretelling of the idea of perhaps love, relational love coming into your life in that respect.
Wow. Well, that's good to know. I do have one last thing.
Sure.
So someone who always comes onto your program, she's the one who told me about your show. And so I submitted my dream. And the night that I submitted my dream to you, I had a dream. And in this dream, I was being called onto your stage. I was selected to be a part of the broadcast and to share my dream I had submitted. I remember being called on stage and having a notebook with me. I walked to the stage and right in front, it was like the stairs were in the front and I walked to the right and I was being ushered by your stage manager to sit at a specific desk off to the right. And then I look up and there's this young girl and she's handing your stage manager a tithe check and it was for the amount of $9 million. And I was shocked, but it was a transaction that was happening from this young girl who had been on your program and was handing this tithe check to your stage manager. And she had on like an athlete boxer shorts, and they were yellow and a white top. And she was communicating to me, not verbally, but just within the dream, remember, I got that check. This is the tithe that I'm giving. And so I woke up from that dream, and even though I hadn't yet been selected to be on your program, I knew innately I was going to be on your show. I just didn't know when, and that I was supposed to share that dream with you.
Wow, that's interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
What did you get out of it?
I did not break that dream down yet. But initially, I just thought that God was giving me insights to perhaps what was happening on your platform, honestly.
Yeah, interesting. You know, the first thing that comes to mind is, so a $9 million tithe check represents a $90 million windfall. And there was a song, and I'm trying to remember if the song is accurate or not, but the song is about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And the song starts out 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide. Solid gold. It must be a god. They were told when the music plays, bow down and begin to pray. And it's and they said, we're not going to bow to your idol. That's the chorus of the song is, we're not going to bow to your idol. Oh no. You know, it's the idea that the statue that Nebuchadnezzar built was 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide and made of solid gold.
Mm.
So it's interesting because in that respect, it could be a warning about not letting money be a god. Whether it was now, did you know this lady who was giving the tithe check or?
No, and she was young. She was maybe early 20s, if that.
Wow. Pretty
Yeah.
young to be making 90 million bucks, right?
Right. Yeah.
But, yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because, obviously we don't have a stage and a platform. So that part is not literal. That part is more figurative. And I believe it's the idea of the platform that God is giving us, just to be able to do live dreams and to be able to do more shows than just on YouTube. Obviously it's an honor and a privilege to be on the His Glory Network, and some of the things that are happening. But for your part, you were coming on the show to share a dream. Was that right?
Correct. The dream that I just shared with you. Yeah.
Oh, the dream that you just shared. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting because sometimes that's indicative of a timestamp.
Mm-hmm.
So being on this platform, this show will be on His Glory, and so that's a bigger platform, obviously, than what we've done in the past with just YouTube. But the stage manager. What did you say the stage manager was wearing? Or you described somebody's clothes. Who are you talking
The
about?
young girl who gave the check to the stage manager.
And you said, what was she wearing?
She had on what stood out to me the most is that she had on boxer shorts, but they were like boxer shorts as an athlete, like someone who's actually going into a ring in boxing. And they were white and yellow panels, but the yellow was very vibrant. And she also had like a little trinket or keychain hanging from her boxer shorts. Yeah, the
Okay.
stage manager, I remember him having a headset on, but I never remember seeing his face or his clothing.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it could be a timestamp representing now, because obviously you're on the show on our platform sharing this dream, the dream that you just shared. So that's super interesting. But obviously the idea of an economic
Warning.
yeah, an economic warning, but also an economic seed that could be coming in from somewhere. So I think that's interesting. And also obviously a level of community. If you have a financial partner of that respect, there's usually a level of relationship there. So I think that's interesting. I'm going to be on the lookout for any young lady in boxers that are white and yellow with trinkets on them.
Right. You never know how the blessing is going to come. That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Don, it was a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your dreams with us. I appreciate you being on.
Yes.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.